All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Muhammad wa ahla baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjil farajahum. So we left off talking about Musa alayhi salam and the story we mentioned about the benefits of salawat and how this young man came to possession of that cow that the Bani Israel ended up having to slaughter. When they asked Musa, Musa told them to slaughter a cow, and they said, what type of cow, what color cow, describe more and more and more, until they found the only cow that fit that description was the one of that young man, and that they needed to use the piece of that cow to revive the man who had been killed, to find out the murderer of that man. So we said that Musa alayhi salam, bi'idhnillah, by the permission of Allah, brought this man back to life, where he testified who killed him. And then he ended up making dua and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, "Oh Allah, I beg you with the same prayer that this young man has offered for Muhammad and his family, that you allow me to remain alive so that I can live happily with my wife, that you protect me against my enemies and those who are jealous of me, and that you bless me through my life with her." So Musa alayhi salam told him that you were meant to live 60 years, but because of this dua that you have made and seeking tawasul of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad alayhi salam, that Allah said that he will extend his life additional 70 years. So he lived to be a total of 130 years. This is, we said, is example of bada, where something appears to be one way, but something happens and the outcome is changed due to some circumstance. We discussed this in when we were going over Aqad Imamiyah. Many examples of bada have happened that we said, for example, where it looked as Ibrahim alayhi salam was supposed to slaughter Ismail, but then it turned out that he slaughtered the ram. And other cases with Isa alayhi salam, where he was speaking about a lady that had just gotten married, that they will cry, they're laughing today, but will cry the next day. But then something happened where the outcome changed, and he went to their house and asked why, what happened, what did you do yesterday, what tell me exactly what you have done. And he said that the lady said that someone came and knocked at my door and they were hungry, and I gave them something so they could get something to eat. She gave sadaqah. That sadaqah pushed her death away from her. And he went in her house and lifted up the mat, and they said there was a snake there. And they said, this snake was supposed to bite you, but because of your sadaqah, it repelled that. So we see here that this is also another case of bada, that this man was supposed to have died, but then Allah lengthened his life because of this dua that he made, sending blessings on Prophet Muhammad and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So he testified who killed him, and they got to the bottom of that case. And this is where we left off last time. So moving forward, it says, during this period in the life of Musa, Bani Israel were able to farm for themselves. And they, it says, seeing that Allah listened to the dua of Musa, alayhi salam, the Bani Israel asked Allah if he would give them control over the rain, so that they could make it rain when they wanted to and make it stop when they wanted to. In this way, they wanted to grow more crops, and Allah gave them the ability to do that. So okay, and commanded the angels of rain to answer to Musa alayhi salam, and for Musa to base his command on the will of the people. So the people come together, said, we want rain. They said, okay, now we don't want rain. So they were able to control this by the permission of Allah. So they planted all type of crops, and they told Musa to make it rain a lot. And then in a short time, their plants were very big. The vegetables grew very fast and bigger than the normal size, many times more. And at the end of the season, they were excited because they had a lot of harvest. Then their hopes, when they saw this thing, they saw that this enormous plant didn't bring any fruit, didn't bring anything worthwhile. So they became angry and they complained to Musa because their plants got big, but they didn't grow any fruit. Their plants got 2-3 times the size of normal plants, but the fruits and vegetables didn't come as normal. So they complained against Musa alayhi salam, but he explained to them that Allah is Al-Hakim. Allah is all-wise, and he makes the rain fall with a certain measure to make sure that they are provided for. This is all within the planning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he gave them control over the rain only to teach them a lesson that they don't have the knowledge to manage the affairs on their own, but they have to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take care of them. And sometimes we see that we tamper with the natural process of things, and then they produce side effects. For instance, they put too many things in the chickens or the cows, or put pesticides on the fruits and the vegetables, or some sort of bioengineering and other type of things, to make the things grow faster. And then later on, it looks good, but then later on, maybe they find out that there has ill side effects to these things, or maybe some cancers are coming, or some diseases are coming because of the things with the hormones and other things that they're giving. These chickens go from an egg and then a full-grown gigantic bird, and or 1 week or 2 weeks or something. Just as an example, I don't know the timeline of it, but they grow the chicken from egg to chicken like this, and then it goes directly to the supermarket. So sometimes this thing could have a bad effect on people. We don't know all the effects of it, but later down the line, we'll realize that maybe a lot of these things weren't good to do. And then for some time now, we see that the desire of people, they want to eat organic food. They want to eat grass-fed beef, for example. They don't want all this other bad stuff that they're feeding the animals. They want their chickens to be free-range chickens, not kept in cage, and all these type of things. They want to go natural and organic, and people realize that. So now they say, okay, the engineered food will make it cheap, but the natural food will make it very expensive, or organic food will make it expensive. So we have to take care of ourselves, and try to eat good and these type of things. But the thing we take lesson from this is, with humanity, is sometimes we try to tamper with things that shouldn't be tampered with. We have to trust Allah. In the story of Musa, they thought, okay, maybe I can do it better. I can make it rain. I can make it stop rain. But Allah knows the measure of things, how to bring about how much rain needs to come, how much all the things to make things grow and to make the universe work. He knows the inner workings of this, where sometimes we think as people, they think they know more, but we see here that their plants did grow twice the size, but they didn't produce because they didn't do it right. He said during these years their followers increased, and their Musa's movement and the faith propagating all this, it gained traction. And then the upper society in Egypt started talking about Musa alayhi salam, started talking that he's making trouble, he's gathering the people, and they came to Pharaoh. They said, "You're gonna let Musa just go about and do that, do whatever he wants, and his people are causing problems." And they're talking about abandoning you and abandoning your gods. So Pharaoh was happy to see, once again, he had the people's attention. He had their support to get rid of Bani Israel. So he said, we will, once more, we'll slaughter their sons and spare their women. We can do this, no one will say anything because the people have our support and we have the upper hand over them. We are more strong than them. So his counselor, Haman, he counseled that killing the newborn sons wouldn't be enough to stop Musa. He advised that they should round up all of Musa's followers and put them in the prison. And this would, take away all Musa's supporters. He would be left alone. Those who believed in him would be in the prison, and those who did not believe in him and maybe thinking about believing in him would be too scared to join him. Because they say, oh, no, I don't want to go to jail, so I'm not going to listen to Musa. I'm just going to stay out of that. So the news about Pharaoh's change in the policy, it hit the followers of Musa very hard. A lot of them left, except the most steadfast ones, because other ones, they said they will be singled out for, to be oppressed, to be persecuted because they joined Musa. So Musa told them, turn to Allah for help, turn to Allah and persevere. And remember that this land belongs to Allah and he gives it to whoever he wishes among his servants, and the final outcome will be in favor of the God-fearing. This reminds me of how the Holy Prophet ﷺ and his followers were tortured while they were living in Mecca. The parents of Ammar ibn Yasir, also Bilal al-Habashi, they come to mind about how they were tortured just for believing and following Rasulullah ﷺ. So this was happening in this case with the followers of Musa. Musa is telling them to be patient, to persevere, to have trust in Allah. So one of these Bani Israel, he had always had something to say, so he said something against Musa's prophecy and his words of encouragement that he gave the people. He had something negative to say. He said, we were tormented before you came to us, and we are now to be tormented after you come to us. Saying that like Musa's promises to free them from Pharaoh were false. Like, oh, you said you were going to free us, but we were getting tortured before you came, and now we're tortured after you're here. So what is the difference? The thing here is that a lot of people expect immediate results, but rather, a process has to take place in order to achieve the results in most cases. We trust the process. We have to trust the process and have faith, and patience for the results. We have to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of time people say that, okay, we want it just right now. We say that, it's not that in that case. Even with other things in life, you have to work at it. You have to put effort in. You have to, as a process, things don't happen just overnight like this, So they needed to trust in the Prophet, follow the Prophet, have faith in the Prophet, follow Allah's words, and they're going through that test to see if they are loyal. And, but a lot of time, the people, when they hit one speed bump, they're like, oh, forget this, it's not working, but they don't have patience. Have to, when we hit a speed bump in life, we have to have patience and know that, okay, this is just part of the process, that we are working towards the hereafter. Okay, sometime we have some problems, some hiccups in life, that it's okay that we'll get through that and we continue on. We cannot like let it throw us off the path completely, where this person is saying, I don't see anything different. You're not doing anything. I don't believe in you because you haven't freed me from Fir'aun yet. But it's taking time. So Musa told him, I'm still hopeful that your Lord will destroy your enemy and let you inherit the land. He knew that Allah would fulfill his promise and that the delay was only a test. But he warned them that the fulfillment of this promise would not be the end, but the continuation of a lifelong test. For this reason, he said, then after giving you their land, he will see how you will act. So it's a continued test. After they get their land back, what will they do? Will they turn away from Allah? Will they go back to what they were doing before? Will they continue in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A lot of times we get something, and then we forget all about all of the other things. Maybe they're praying all this time for something, then they get it, and they say, okay, forget it. Don't need to pray anymore. Don't need to do anything. I got what I needed, and I go back to doing whatever else I want to do, But the thing is, how will we act? It's like that man on the boat that talks about in the Quran. He's calling out on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, save me, I don't want to die. Just get me to land. I will be good. I'll do everything right. But when he got to land, what happened? Quran says that he turned away, and that he turned away from Allah and forgot his promise. How many times we get in a jam, we say, oh Allah, let me get through this thing. I won't do, this other thing anymore. And then Allah saves us, brings us through that trial, through that struggle, and then go back to doing something else. Forget all about the promise, forget all about calling on Allah once we get what we needed. So we have to see that we always stay on the path. We call on Allah in good times and bad times. We praise Allah in good times and bad times. Whenever we're going through something, we call on Allah for his help. Whenever we're going through something good, we're thanking Allah for his bounties. It's two sides. Some people call on Allah only when they are going through hardships. Rest of the time, they forget. Then other people, sometimes they only praising Allah and thanking Allah in the good times. But as soon as they hit bad time, they forget all about it. They say, what am I making all these salat for? My life is horrible. My life is bad. I was doing better when I wasn't making salat. Before, when I missed my salat, my life was good. This is all tricks of shaitan. We have to praise Allah when we are going through trouble and when we're in good time. So Allah saw their frailty in their faith. He had mercy on them. So he besieged Fir'aun and the other Egyptians and hit them with a lot of different calamities. It says that he wished that he could give strength to the believers and to break the Egyptians, break their will, and hope that they too maybe come to believe after this. So the first calamity that they had was a series of droughts. So Allah withheld the rain, and without rain, the Nile river receded and didn't flood. And without their annual flood, the land wouldn't be replenished. So their crops died. It says, with a depressed water table, fruit trees failed to produce their normal harvest. The Bani Israel were accustomed to eking out an existence on next to nothing, so they were immune to the effects of the drought and the famine. But the drought hit the Egyptians hard. I remember this is like, for example, when the recession came in 2008. Everyone was talking about how much the recession hit everybody and how, it hurt everyone and all their business, and they noticed and it hit them really hard. But at that phase in my life, I didn't even know we were going through a recession. I was like, okay, everything is normal to me. Everything is the same. Maybe some other people that were higher up bumped them down a little bit. But for me, I was already, at the bottom. It didn't change anything in my job. I was, just barely getting by. I wasn't in that bracket to even notice that a recession was happening. So I was just like, where is this recession they're talking about? This is normal life for me, because I was going through the struggle. So it says here that this Bani Israel were used to struggling. So with the drought, they were used to living on next to nothing, so it didn't really bother them. But it hit those wealthy people very hard, the Egyptians. So they noticed. It said they recalled the Pharaoh's speech on the day of adornment when he said, "O my people, O my people, do the kingdom of Egypt and these rivers that run at my feet not belong to me? Do you not perceive?" So now they begged Pharaoh. They said, "O king, make the Nile flow freely again." So Pharaoh lied to them. Says, "I'm not pleased with my subjects. That's why I've made it stop flowing." So they argued, "O king, if you don't make the river flow, we will have no choice but to seek another god besides you." So he saw little choice left. He said, "Oh, all the people are going to turn against me and go towards another god." So Pharaoh ordered his subjects to go with him to the riverbank. He made them stand in one place while he went off on his own where they couldn't see him anymore and they couldn't hear him anymore. He knelt on the ground. He laid his cheek on the earth and he raised his index finger toward the sky. And he said, "Lord, I have come here to you as a lowly servant comes before his master. I know that nobody can make the Nile flow but you. So please make it flow." So Pharaoh admits he cannot make it flow, only Allah can make it flow. So when he went back to his people, they were cheering, they were celebrating because the rain came and the Nile was flowing like it hadn't done in a while. So he didn't tell them that he prayed and asked Allah to make it flow. He told them that he was the one that did this for them. And then they all fell down in sujood and prostrated to Pharaoh. So later, Jibreel came before Pharaoh in the form of a noble person of Egypt. He said, "O king, counsel me on what I should do with a servant of mine." The Pharaoh, he said, "What is your difficulty with him?" Jibreel said, "I gave this servant authority over my other servants. I entrusted him with my keys, but he rebelled against me. He allied with my enemies, and he is an enemy to my allies." Pharaoh shook his head and said, "What a terrible servant you have." He doesn't realize they're talking about him. He said, "If I were in your place, I would drown him in the Red Sea." Jibreel looked pleased with this counsel, and he said, "O king, please write this advice for me." The Pharaoh called for paper, pen, ink, and he wrote, "The punishment for a servant who rebels against his master and aligns with his enemies and is an enemy to his allies is that he be drowned in the Red Sea." Jibreel went on, "O king, place your royal seal on this letter of yours." He complied and then handed the letter to him, which Jibreel kept for safekeeping. Inshallah, we'll see this again later in the story. So the second thing, after the rain had stopped and the drought came, Pharaoh called on Musa and asked him to call off the drought. Musa let him know that he would do so only if Pharaoh promised to release the Bani Israel from prison and to stop being the aggressor against his people. So Pharaoh promised, then the rain fell. But again, Pharaoh told his people that it was him that made it rain. Again, the rain stopped. Pharaoh told his people the drought was an ill omen brought on by Musa. So now he said, "Oh, Musa brought this bad luck to you." And the followers of Musa, though the real cause was actually Allah's retribution for their actions that they were doing. But most of the people didn't realize what was going on. So Fir'aun made more empty promises. So Allah let the rain fall. Then he went back on his promises. The rain stopped, and so the cycle continued for years. Finally, Fir'aun declared to Musa, whatever so-called miracle you will bring to us to bewitch us, we are not going to believe in you. So now Allah sent another sign. Allah sent a very strong hailstorm on them. The hailstones rained only on the Egyptian neighborhoods, causing damage where they fell, but stayed clear of the area where Musa and his followers were living. After a few of these storms, Musa came to Fir'aun and demanded the release of all the Bani Israel and to stop being aggressive towards them. So Fir'aun managed to say, "O magician, invoke your Lord for us by the covenant he has made with you. We will then take your advice, heed your guidance." But when the storm stopped, Haman advised Fir'aun against conceding anything to Musa. He said, "If you do it, Musa will conquer you and he'll take Egypt for himself." So the Fir'aun listened to this bad advice from his advisor, and he refused to honor his promise. The next year, the grains were ready to harvest. Allah told Musa to point his staff toward the eastern and the western horizons. Then gray clouds of locusts swarmed like rain clouds from both directions, and they came down on their crops. Within minutes, they had eaten the whole food supply of Egypt. And then again, there were more empty promises, gracious relief, and betrayal at the request of the advisor. The next year, Allah told Musa to strike the earth with his staff. Millions of beetles crawled out of the ground and began eating their crops. Again, empty promises from Fir'aun, and then relief, and then breaking those promises again because of the advisor, Haman. The next year, Allah told Musa to stand on the bank of the Nile River and call every frog that lived among the reeds to come to shore. Hordes of these frogs entered the city and overwhelmed the Egyptians, filling their house. They got into their food, they got into their water supply, and then again, more promises, relief, betrayal. You would think that they would believe by now after seeing all of these signs, but they were very stubborn and they would not give in. So the next year, Allah told Musa to strike the water of the Nile with his staff. In an instant, the water turned to blood. When the Bani Israel drew water from this river, the water was tahir, water was pure. But when the Egyptians tried to drink it, it would remain as blood. Subhanallah. One Egyptian woman, she thought she was smart to outsmart Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his plan. So she ordered her slave, who was from Bani Israel, to get the water for her and to serve it to her. But as soon as it touched her own lips, the water turned to blood. Again, empty promises from Fir'aun, relief, betrayal of the promises that he made. And they were, very arrogant, very evil people, as Quran says. Then their last chance came in form of plague of their livestock. So once again, only the livestock of those Egyptians was affected. When it struck, they began begging Musa, saying, "If you remove this plague from us, we will certainly believe in you, and we will let the Bani Israel leave. They can go with you." But when Allah lifted the plague from them, they broke their promise one more time. So neither Allah nor Musa nor Harun, they weren't naive in believing the Fir'aun's promises. The purpose of those calamities coming to them was to try to awaken their people, to and his people's conscience, or waken their conscience, and to seal their fates if they chose to ignore all of these things, these clear miracles of Prophet, that were happening right in front of them. If they ignored these things and all of these proofs given to them, they had so many chances they would end up sealing their own fate. So when the calamities ran their course, all of those ones that remained with Fir'aun, they had proven to the world that their hearts were hard. They had rust on their hearts, as Quran says, and they were blind to the truth. They were blind to the teaching of Musa. They didn't want to accept anything. They were stubborn. No matter what they saw, they would not accept it. So even though they knew it was the truth, because they would go to Musa and Musa would make the thing go, he would remove the calamity and would come back. They knew, but they were stubborn. They didn't want to accept it. They thought that they were better than Bani Israel. So it says from here on, the focus of Musa and Harun's mission in Egypt changed. They fulfilled their duty. They did Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar, calling to good, forbidding evil. They did this with Fir'aun and his people, and it didn't, get much results from them. Now their focus centered around Bani Israel. So in dua, Musa said, "O Lord, you have given the Fir'aun and his courtiers glamour and wealth in this temporal world, and as a result, they have led people away from your path. O Lord, blot out their wealth, harden their hearts, so that they do not believe until they see the painful punishment." As Musa alayhi salam prayed, Harun and all the angels, they said Ameen. They confirmed his dua. Allah replied, "Your supplication has been answered, so be steadfast, but don't follow the way of those who are ignorant amongst the Bani Israel." So Allah promised them relief from Fir'aun, and he also foreshadowed the difficulties that lay ahead, and they're dealing with their own people, because he said, don't follow the way of those who are ignorant amongst the Bani Israel. So he said you're going to get free from Fir'aun, but there will be some difficulty dealing with your people. While Allah's answer came instantly, in his wisdom, he decided, unknown to them, to delay fulfilling his promise for another 40 years. So they would be freed, but some time will pass. So in the aftermath of these 7 calamities that hit Egypt, Egypt was in ruins, and Fir'aun was very desperate to be rid of Musa. He wanted to get rid of Musa completely. So his advisors had sanctioned the persecution of the Bani Israel, the slaves. But with the power that Musa had, they didn't want to harm him directly. So Fir'aun felt that he had a reason to convince them otherwise. So he called Musa to his court. He recounted all the things that Musa had done, and he pleaded with his advisors. He said, let me kill Musa. Let him go calling on his Lord while I do it. Now how arrogant, this Fir'aun is. He said, I will kill him and let him call his God while I'm doing it. I don't care, for his Lord won't be able to save him. I fear that Musa will change your religion or bring forth more corruption in the land than he already has. So a lot of the advisors, wanted to go ahead with that. Said, okay, we'll kill Musa. Fir'aun wanted to be rid of him because he's his enemy, and he was too impatient to risk waiting on an executioner. So he took out his dagger and went towards Musa to kill him. Musa prayed, I seek protection of my Lord and your Lord from every arrogant person who does not believe in the day of reckoning. As the Fir'aun raised up his hand to strike at Musa, his hand started shaking. He was of legitimate birth, and no one of legitimate birth has the depravity to kill a prophet. This is mentioned in this is narration. Those who killed the prophets and killed Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and those who killed the Imams were of illegitimate birth. He said, suddenly, and to the Fir'aun's relief, a man, the believer from the house of Fir'aun, Ezekiel, he mentioned, will you kill a person for saying my Lord is God, when he brings you manifest proofs from your Lord? So he's saying, like, how can you just kill this person just for saying that he believes in Allah? And he brought you proof. So this was Ezekiel. It said he had never worshipped an idol a day in his life. And he helped Musa escape from Egypt a long time ago. And ever since, he was a silent witness to all that passed between Musa and his own cousin Fir'aun. So he was a cousin to Fir'aun. And he believed in all the words that Musa alayhi salam taught and preached. But he was very tactful, and he concealed his faith. He did taqiyya, dissimulation, or hiding one's faith out of fear. So Fir'aun stopped in his tracks. He put down his blade. He looked at Ezekiel and he continued, should he be lying, his lie will be to his own detriment. This is what Ezekiel said. If Musa's lying, it will only hurt him. But if he is truthful, that means you are, liars. And at least some of what he promises will afflict you. For Allah does not guide the one who is a liar. My people, granted that today sovereignty belongs to you as you dominate over the land. However, who will help us against Allah's punishment if it overtakes us? So Fir'aun, tried desperately to sound as, as Ezekiel told his court, I just show you the things the way I see them, and I only guide you to the path of rectitude. But the damage was done. Ezekiel's words had struck a chord with their intellects, and they could see no sense in killing Musa. He said, you're just going to kill him only because he has said some things, and he brought his proof. So they decided, not to kill Musa due to these words that Ezekiel told the advisors. So they changed their mind, let Musa continue on with what he was doing. And then the coming months, he's talking more in gatherings. Ezekiel was very active in preaching the message of Musa, and inshallah, we'll pick up here next week and we'll see what else he has to say. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.